What you doing tonight? What you doing tonight? It's mixing night with Ken Lewis tonight. What you doing tonight? What you doing tonight? We got some dog treats for Mazzy to
Welcome to Mixing. Wait, there it is. Welcome to Mixing Night. I'm your host, Ken Lewis, and I have the weirdest resume in the entire music industry. I'm joined tonight by my sidekick, Mazzy Lewis, holding down treats and security. And later on, my live guest is studio designer and builder Mike DiSalvo of I Build Music Studios. Mike designed and is currently finishing the build on my new Studio A. Oh, I think the October broadcast is going to be from the new Studio A. It's so close to done. Oh, it's looking amazing. So we're going to have a discussion, and we're going to take questions live from the chat roll. So if you have any questions about studio design or studio construction, and trust me, I have learned a lot from this man. Fire them up and throw them on the chat roll. Mike is a great wealth of information. Get your questions ready. Post them on the chat roll or the comments. It is compression night. If you're currently a little bit confused or unsure about how to properly use compression, when to use it, which compressors you need, how to hear compression, hopefully by the end of the show, you will feel a lot more confident in your abilities. I am dropping gems tonight. And speaking of compression, Mixing Night Audio just released our second plugin, LOLCOMP. And if you don't understand compression, LOLCOMP is the fastest fix for that on planet Earth. It is so easy to use. So much more than just a compressor. It's a really powerful channel strip. I've gotten some truly amazing feedback from a bunch of my heavyweight mixer friends, which has been super awesome. DJ Swivel and Bob Horn and a bunch of guys have been raving about it. Thank you guys. I will show you guys the awesome power and ease of use of LOLCOMP near the end of the show when we do the LOLCOMP Mix Challenge winners. And then I'll play you guys Len Kewis's disqualified LOLCOMP mix entry. You know, Len Kewis, no relation, just my arch nemesis. He did a mix only using LOLCOMP, no other plugins whatsoever. And I think he cheated because it sounds exactly like the original master. So, son of a bitch. Later tonight in the description, we have a $30 off coupon for you guys in the description for LOLCOMP and Greenhouse. Go get it and go get them. It's only for you guys on the show who are actually tuning in, and you guys get the discount. So go get it. Okay, we got some really awesome mix submissions in the LOLCOMP Mix Challenge. Wait till you guys hear them. It's crazy. Big shout out this month to Mixing Night co-founder Dom Ravinius. He just scored a huge credit producing the K-pop hit Buja Day by hit artist You Know. The song has been #1 on a few charts. Huge congrats, Dom. That's just another step on your ascent. Man, Dom worked on the Taylor Swift Midnight's album with me this past year, and he's just been racking up the major credits. Congrats, Dom. It's tonight's an action-packed show. Stay tuned. But I'm gonna sprint mix an old vault favorite of mine called Diablo tonight. I mean, you ask Ken, why sprint mixing? Is it so that you can mix super fast and then go home and do other things? No, it's not that at all. Sprint mixing trains your instincts. And so basically I have something like, this isn't even the right session. I have like 30 stems, and I have 10 minutes, and I have to go from all faders down to the best rough mix that I can possibly deliver in only 10 minutes. Let me see, where is my timer? And I don't have a mask. I don't have my new LOLCOMP mask. Oh, such a cool mask. We have LOLCOMP swag. We're going to be giving some LOLCOMP swag away tonight. So anyway, seeing as COVID is on the resurgence in America, go COVID. We started this under lockdown. The mask was kind of an homage to being through COVID, so I always still sprint mix with the mask on. 10 minutes on the clock. You have found Mixing Night. This song is Diablo. Thank you for tuning in. Let's fucking go.
wasting time on you, but I put my faith in Diablo. I put my faith in Diablo. Guess I'm the shit where the blind Diablo. Shorty did some 03. You know everything, but you can never know me. Cause it's like I'm living fast at a slow speed. I'ma leave it in I'll be wasting time for the goal. I pray you make it to your I ain't beefing with a dummy ways. My time with you, I can't lie, bitch. I be going crazy when we don't fuck. So that you be out of line, but I like it. There ain't no safety on you, you stuck. So you don't. 7 with a home team. I ain't beefing with a dummy ways, OG. Nah, I don't need a home what these hoes need. Sippin' Henny, fucking shorty, did some 03. You know everything, but you can never know me. Cause it's like I'm living fast at a slow speed. I'ma leave it in the past if you feel left. I'ma check it at the door before we proceed. I put my faith in Diablo. Guess I'm the shit where the blind yo. My faith in Diablo. Guess I'm the shit where the blind yo. I'll be wasting time on you. I'll be wasting time on me. I put my faith in Diablo. Faith in Diablo. She found me wherever I go, yeah. I put my faith in you, grinded and made it through all for the glory and none for the gold. I pray you make it to your destination through all of your obstacles, don't ever fall. I know the stories ain't all that they telling you. I know some more they just never been told. I gotta hand it to Satan, she found me wherever I go, yeah, yeah. I put my my faith in you, grinded and made it through, all for the glory and none for the gold. I pray you make it to your destination through all of your obstacles, don't ever fall. I know the stories ain't all that they telling you, I know some more they just never been told. I gotta hand it to Satan, she find me wherever I go. Yeah, yeah. I put my faith in you, grinded and made it through, all for the glory and none for the gold.
LOCOMP is ridiculous.
I ain't beefing with a dummy where it's OG. Nah, I don't need a home with these hoes need. Sippin' Henny, fucking shorty, this some 03. You know everything, but you can never know me. Cause it's like I'm living fast at a slow speed. I'ma leave it in the past if you feel left. I'ma check it at the door before we proceed. I need my time with you, I can't lie, bitch. I be going crazy when we don't fuck. So that you be out of line, but I like it. There ain't no safety on you.
FGX is just for volume, that's it. So, I forgot to start the clock, but I'm pretty sure it was about 8:05. So I'm only like not even 8 minutes in, and the song is done. Love the fucking balances. Everything is feeling really good to me. So I'm going to show you some fun things about Diablo. The backgrounds in the second half of the hook that come in like drunken sailors, those are all me.
I put my faith in Diablo. Yes, I'm the she with the baño. I put my faith in Diablo. Yes, I'm the she with the baño. I be wasting time on you.
So, and I kept every single one of my takes that I did in tune or out of tune. I used auto tune on a bunch of the tracks. So, but I basically did like 12 takes, and I did different personalities and different harmonies on each take, and I just slapped them all together, and then I put them underneath the main vocal, and then I looped them, and it sounded like that, and I was like, done. I don't need to do anything else. It sounds perfect. I didn't need to like time align them, you know. And the lesson behind that is the more that you time align and auto tune, the smaller your overall impact is going to be. It might be a smaller, tighter, more cohesive impact, but it's not going to be as wide and spread out. So if you want like a gang effect on the chorus, the way that I'm going for the gang effect on my backgrounds here,
I put my faith in Diablo. Yes, I'm the she with.
That's just, I'm trying to get a little bit of a drunken background vocal vibe going. So I want them to feel a little bit loose against the hook main, which is right here.
I put my faith in Diablo. Yes, I'm the she with a baño. I be wasting time on you.
So hopefully that's interesting. If not, well, I went for it. All right, so sprint mixing, boy, that was too easy for me tonight. I just cranked that one right out. But I got to tell you, sprint mixing has really sharpened my instincts over the last 3 years of doing this since the beginning of pandemic when we launched Mixing Night. And you know, and I've noticed it in my own mixing, like my own decision making, even 30 years into a major label mixing career, is sharper and more concise, and I listen to my gut even more than I did before. And so, yeah, there's something to it. You know, it's like athletics. What's the next thing? We got a little Q&A. We got to, let's see. Do we have, let's see, I'll get Q&A from If you guys can make the text on this a lot bigger, it's pretty small for me to read. Clay Lahat asks from the chat roll, hey, Ken, everything I hear on typical TV sounds so smooth. Consistent bass, kicks, effects, not abrasive, even older music that may have been less controlled. Is that really in the mixes, or is there an additional processing happening in with the broadcasters? Well, I mean, most of what you hear on TV is the cream of the audio crop, so it tends to have more money spent on recording and production and mixing, and all of that stuff adds value to how good it sounds. I mean, it just does. Like, you know, there's going to be a huge difference between the way I cut vocals and the way you cut vocals. And you can hear that in everything that I put out. Like, most people don't have the mindset that like, I just had John Conlon in for a week, producing him in from LA, and he's a great vocalist, but we would spend at least a full day on just lead vocals per song. And then I would comp them, like, we would record them and then comp them, and then we would shoot them out. And then I would give him beat the comp takes, and then I would comp the beat the comp takes against the original comp. We did that for every single song. And that's an independent project. So, you know, I hear a lot of times, you know, you did your vocals in a couple takes, and when I hear it, it sounds like it. And I'm just being, you know, generally speaking. Like, I feel like the one thing that you have a lot of control over as an independent artist is time and your ability to perform at your highest level. And you don't want to go so crazy with recording that you lose the vibe and the magic of it. But certainly things like vocals, you want to make sure that you're capturing your very, very best pieces of your performances, not just like whatever you can do in the first few takes, and without punching or comping or anything else. So anyway, sidetracking there. Let's see. I got pre-submitted questions, and then I'm going to the 1176 plugin shootout. That's going to be mind-blowing. To a lot of people, that's going to be really mind-blowing, because when I first did it, it was pretty mind-blowing to me. So I expect the same from you. And yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. But just when people say the sound of an 1176, I'm about to completely turn that on its head for you. Okay. Chris Perkins from Pre-Submitted Questions asks, hey, Ken, I wanted to get your thoughts on how you approach EQing things in a mix so that the overall mix sounds cleaner and equal across the frequency range. You know, I always try and keep room for the lead vocal. A lot of times I'll sneak in the lead vocal low in the mix before I'm ready to really work with it, just so I remember it's there, and the general frequency ranges that I need it to occupy, I'm keeping open for it. So I think that's one thing that I do to help me. I also, listening at one consistent volume usually helps most people. I can bounce around volumes pretty easily. Hey, man, you want another? Oh, I gotta start bribing my. Lay down, babe. Lay down, cutie. Come on, we need our mascot tonight. Oh, who's the best girl ever? She just had a little minor surgery this past week. But she's a champ. I don't even think she remembers anything ever happened to her. It's fucking amazing. So back to Chris Perkins' question. How do I approach EQing things in a mix? I don't approach EQing from a sense of technicality. I approach EQ from a sense of causality. So I will listen to a sound, or I will listen to the mix, and I will say, what does this song need? And then the song might tell me, you know, it's the low end is a little bit light. So then I'm going to start asking questions. Well, okay, why is the low end light? Do I need to turn up the bass? Do I need to turn up the kick? Do I need to fatten up the bass? Do I need to fatten up the kick? Is it the bass and the kick at all? Maybe something else is going on. Maybe everything else is just too bright and there's too much mid-range. So you start asking yourself all these musical questions instead of these audio questions like, okay, what EQ am I going to use to carve out some low frequencies on this? I don't think like that at all. I think like, okay, what do I have? Then what do I want to have? And then on a micro level, pick a track. Okay, what do I want this track to sound like? And what does it sound like now? Okay, how do I get it there? And, you know, this all happens very rapidly for me because I've been mixing since the Stone Ages. And then I go, oh, well, maybe I just need to tilt it a little bit, and then I'll need much less EQ, and then the compression will work much more smoothly. And, okay, so tilt first, and then some compression, and basically I'm describing LOLCOMP. This is what LOLCOMP does. So I designed LOLCOMP to make my life easier, in the hopes that it will also make your life easier as well, because it is a unique one-of-one beast mode plugin. I'm trying to tell you guys, we smashed it. I know it feels a little bit pricey, but it really is going to replace like 10 of your other plugins and save you so much time and get you so much better results. And anybody who's watched the show for a while, you know I don't sell shit, but we smashed it with this one. It's so good. Austin Ryan Mass asks, hey Ken, do you layer tracks through the song to make it more musical? Yes, sometimes, of course. I think of more as a producer or as an artist in track layering. But evolving the sound as a mixer is kind of in that same lane of that question. But yeah, usually I try and young man. So Obscene Stealers, my group, me and Michael Moss, the movie trailer boss. I had to reach for that one. Michael Moss, the movie trailer boss, and myself are Obscene Stealers. So this is pretty much like a sync project of ours. We do music that's really targeting film, TV, video games, any streaming, any of that kind of thing. And we just did a collaboration with Skrizzly Adams. We just put out a song called Young Man, which in the last 2 weeks has streamed, less than 2 weeks, has streamed 61,000. So if you're one of those listeners, thank you very much. That is a serious evolution over the course of time of how to build a song into a peak. So please check that out, and that'll answer a lot of your questions. Let's see. I need to stick to my agenda, and it is time for me to move on. It is 1176 plugin shootout time. Pew, pew. Here we go. So, once upon a time, there was a group called Skidmore Fountain that I produced. Love those guys. Dylan Wissing, my studio drummer forever, played drums in Skidmore Fountain. So these are Dylan's drums that we're listening to tonight. And what I have done is... Okay. So, here's the drum. Without any extra anything. Okay, nice big punchy kick, nice big fat punchy snare. You can hear the room. The cymbals everything is pretty well mixed and pretty even, but you know, it's a pretty straight up rock sound. So we are going to start with the 1176s. There you go. So I'm going to pull up the first 4 1176s. Come on. There we go. Is this the LA2? Sorry. I was looking at that going, something is not quite right here. That's what is not quite right. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. Now we have some 1176s. So in this example, I tried to set all of the inputs and outputs the same. So the first mind blower of all of these plugins is the gain staging on every single one of them is completely different. There's a couple that are very similar to each other, but for the most part, every single one of these from each different company has kind of a different input-output ratio. It grabs differently. And same goes with the LA2As as well. So I have 7 different 1176s. Let's go through them. BF76. CLA 76. T-Rax Black 76. UAD. Those all sound completely different to me. And if you'll notice, I did try and get the output volumes as matched as possible. And I also got the input reduction as matched as possible. So if you see this one is at like in between 24 and 18, and this one is between 36 and 30, but the input reduction on the meters when they're both working is roughly equal. And their perceived output is roughly equal as well. So that's how I'm setting this up. So let me, I'm going to play you through the full 7 of them in a row. I can only show you the first 4 in a row, but I want you to hear everything, you know, back to back to back, just so you can really hear the radical difference in how each one of these grabs. Now, what you're listening for especially is how does it grab the kick drum and how does it grab the snare? Because some of them will let a lot of the initial transient through and then pull back, and some of them will rake back on the transient right away, and they have a totally different sound. I have the attack set to each of these modules the exact same, and the release is fastest. So let's go through them and see what we got. BF76 first. Super grabby. Big and punchy. Kind of tubby. This is really aggressive. Like you can really hear it working. Totally different sound. So, I mean, they all grab so radically differently. It's really wild to see them. Which ones did I really want to show you? The thing that surprised me most is how really rock solid some of the drums sound in some of them. Like the CLA 76 is really punchy, and I feel like maybe the VMR is really punchy on one of the chains. Yeah, that's pretty punchy. And then the CLA 76 is pretty punchy. And then the rest of them are pretty squashy. So not that that's bad, it's just what kind of sound are you going for? So when you want the sound of an 1176, you want to, do you want big solid kicks and snares, or do you want kind of squashy kicks and snares? Because which one of these that you pick and how you set it up is going to determine how that goes for you. So, you thought you only needed one 1176, and honestly, you really only need one 1176 because, I mean, who cares if this model of 1176 is identical to the outboard model and sounds, blah, blah, blah. I don't really look at plugins to model outboard gear. It's great when they do it, and it's great when they really nail it, and there's a few things that I think are really well done. but I just care that the plugin does roughly what I want it to do in the compression style that I want to be hearing, with the kind of the grab and release that I want to be getting from it. Oh, Mazzy, you're such a cutie pie. She's been insisting on walks every day, of course. So, and here's LOLCOMP at the end of that chain. Listen to how big and punchy this sucker is. Okay, on to the LA2As. Let's see if we can pick a different... So the LA2As seem to be set up, generally speaking, much closer to one another than the 1176s were. And that might be because the different models of 1176s over the years changed radically among themselves. I don't know. I don't really care. But I have a vicious hellhound. Don't look at her. Do not look like prey. Oh, God. She spotted me. She's getting a little unruly. All right. That's enough, baby girl. You relax. All right. Let's listen to some LA2As. Totally different grab between these two. And then on the same settings, it's barely touched on this one. Even when I kind of match the amount of peak reduction, it has a kind of its own characteristic to it. It's a little more pillowy. It's interesting. All right, so that's the waves in UAD. Everybody has a different sound. Everybody is, and you hear the sound of an LA2A style opto compressor. It's kind of squeezes everything together. It's very audible. If you're pushing into it hard, you can really hear it. Same with the 1176s. If you're really pushing into it, you can usually really hear the effect of the compression. And later on in the show, I'm going to teach you how to identify attack and release and things like that. So stick around. Oh, Mazzy. Oh. All right. The last four of these, all again set to the same values. Here's starting with the, what is this? No, this is the slate of VMR down here. Yeah, that's got much more of like a point and pull to it. It lets a little bit of the transient, and then it really clamps. So the distressor, when you set it up, see it says opto, opto, opto. So if you 10 to 1, Attack 10 release 0, then it goes into opto mode, and it's supposed to emulate an LA2A. But it doesn't sound anything like any of these emulations. It sounds good and usable, and I've used it many a time like that, but it doesn't sound like the LA2As. The white 2A. The soft tube one feels like it's got a totally different attack release characteristic than the others. And it certainly has a different input-output characteristic. But if you listen to the difference between the VC2A from soft tube and the VMR, so, and you have to really listen to these on your own production, because each one of them is going to grab your drums in a certain way, and it's going to impart a feel. And the one thing that you really got to be careful with compression is it changes the feel of what you're working on. And that can be a great thing, and it can change the feel for the better, or it can really completely change the way the artist originally envisioned that song. And one of the places where you can really get in trouble with this is 808s. Because, like, with me, you know, I love squashing the fuck out of an 808 and letting it just sit under the track and rumble like mad. But sometimes when the producer has produced an 808 to hit at a certain volume and die at a certain rate, and then disappear, and then be gone, and then hit again at a certain volume, and then die at a certain rate, that's an integral part of the feel of that record. Not just the feel of the 808, but the feel of the whole song. And if you change that and you make that decay, sustain, 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 it might change it for the better and feel better, but it's definitely going to change the whole feel of the record. So that's where you got to be really careful with. Oh my goodness. Do you even see this girl? Really? You need to just relax. All right, she is getting a little bit unruly. So yeah, when you're dealing, and that was one of that was one of the reasons that when we started building plugins at Mixing Night Audio, that we didn't want to do anything modeled or like similar to LA2A style compressor or whatever. We wanted to do the furthest thing away from gear. We wanted to do gamified, like just something that puts you in a different headspace and makes you interpret what's coming through the speakers in a fresh way. And I think we smashed it out of the park with that one. I guess I'll tell you guys later about some of the attack and release characteristics of this, of LOLCOMP. Yeah, we pretty much set this up to be like I don't know how to compress, but I need to get great results. What do I do? Well, you LOLCOMP it. That's what you do. This thing is so easy. I've cooked up like 20 tutorials this past week. I'm just going to roll them out. It's like 30 seconds to a result, and I just take something from really boring to really fucking amazing sounding in 30 seconds. And, with you, it'd be like a minute. Like, you just got to feel your way around the controls a little bit and listen more, and that's really all it takes with LOLCOMP. But that's what you get when mix engineers design plugins. So, it's not knocking the guys that are like working with big companies who then code their plugins. Maybe it's the exact same process that we're doing, but me and Dominic built the audio of this from the ground up with the help of our coder, Gary Grutzek, and Lori did all the graphic design work, and then we handed our graphics off to Telegraph. I think next show, we tried to get it together for this show, and I dropped the ball on that. But we're going to do the story of LOLCOMP for the next show, and just tell anybody who's interested in, you know, how do you develop a plugin, and what is the process, and what did you guys go through, and what were some of the pitfalls, and what were some of the unexpecteds. And so Lori's doing the story of LOLCOMP. It's really fantastic. And if you... First of all, anybody who wants to get into the plugin selling game, I can tell you now, it's really damn hard. We're selling some, we're doing okay. But, you know, we put a year or more of kind of time into developing this thing, and we're super proud of how it came out. So you'll hear it a little bit later in the show. I'm going to go to a question. From the chat roll, Recording Blog asks, "Hey, Ken, what's the point in sprint mixing nearly perfect stems? Would it be much more interesting to sprint mix raw tracks to see how far you can get in 10 to 15 minutes? Well, I am running a show, so 10 to 15 is 50% more time that viewers would have to tune in and stay interested in that. And but here's the thing. I must make it look easy. You should try it. It is not easy. I challenge you to try a 10-minute sprint mix with mixed stems that are only volume randomized. Come here and lay down. Hey, come here and lay down. Come here and lay down. And because when you have about 30 stems and 10 minutes on the clock, you have approximately 20 seconds to make every decision you're going to make about that, about what that stem is going to do in relation to every single other stem. And it requires you to work lightning fast. Hey, you hush it up, woman. Hush it up. You're a good girl. And in fact, I have done that with raw multitracks. The Queen Bohemian Rhapsody was a raw multitrack, and I sprint mixed that whole damn thing in 10 minutes, but it was also one of the best recorded songs of all time, recorded by top-level geniuses, so it's not really a fair fight. But I also did the same thing with the Stayin' Alive multitrack, which I assume was the raw multi. So I do that, so maybe you haven't seen some of those shows, but the point is it trains your instincts, and it forces you to make very fast decisions very quickly, live with them and move on very quickly, and then back up and evaluate more. And it's more about your ability to make a ton of decisions rapidly without thinking about them and without reaching for the technology than it is about, you know, oh, my mix skills are, this is more about your balancing skills. Balancing is the vast majority of mixing, and if you are great at balancing, you're going to be a great mixer. So there's my answer. Koei Vin from the chat roll asks, "Hey, Ken, do you sidechain snare and vocal?" No. Didn't even know that was a thing. I do not sidechain snare and vocal. No. Next. Let's see. What are we on track to do? Okay, we're on a little bit of Q&A. I'm going to go to how to hear compression in a few seconds. Fascinating stuff. If you're not totally compressioned out by now. Let me fire up a couple more questions from the pre-submitted. Wing asks, "Hey, Ken, is there a way to change a rapper's voice by mixing?" Yes, Wing, there is. "Hey, Ken, is there a way to change a rapper's voice by mixing? Like, I want to create another version of myself with a different voice and then rap two different verses like two different people collabing." That's more of a personality and flow and delivery. Like, anybody can sound like two different rappers. It's just a question of, can you sound like two different really dope-ass rappers who are battling out on a record together, or is one of your personalities clearly better than the other? Your other potential is, some of these AI tools are doing some amazing shit, and, you might be able to find an AI to take your voice and morph it into another voice. So that's a possibility, but yeah, try it. Try your alter ego. I mean, plenty of people do alter ego stuff, so maybe you can too. Heath, pre-submitted question asks, Heath asks, hey Ken, do you find the right energy to make it all the way through from start to finish? Or how do you find, let me start over. Heath asks, hey Ken, how do you find the right energy to make it all the way through from start to finish without losing track of the vision during a mix? So how do I not lose focus? Well, I do lose focus a lot. I mean, that's just the way it goes. When I'm on deadlines, it's much easier to focus. When I have, motivation to get it done, it's much easier to focus. But pretty much either you're built to work in this business and you can stay on course and get your work done, or you can't. And I want to keep my career where it is and moving upwards, and that takes focus and hard work, and that's just the way it is. It's not fun, it's just what it is. SJ asks, hey Ken, do you record a vocalist playing acoustic guitar while singing? If so, how would you approach miking? If the best way to capture their song is to have them play and sing together, then that's how you have to do it. Trying to capture something that's the best recording process instead of the best musical capture is never going to be the right solution. So, it depends on the guitar and the vocalist and how much the guitar projects and how much the vocalist projects. But there's probably going to be a sweet spot somewhere, maybe 1.5 feet in front of the singer and the guitar, because the guitar and the voice are about going to be right in line. So somewhere about right here is probably where I would put it, off of the sound hole, somewhere around the 12th fret, kind of looking halfway between the vocalist and the acoustic guitar. I would start there and I would listen and I would have them sing and play, and I would move it up or down to balance it, or closer to the acoustic, or further, closer to the vocalist, depending on what balance I want for volume of voice against acoustic. And I would probably start with just one mic. The other possibility is I would do that same exact style of process with a stereo pair of mics that are just, about 3 feet apart in front of me, with the sound hole pointing directly in the middle of them. So you're not getting all the air from the sound hole going directly into the microphone. So if I wanted a stereo performance, I would capture it that way, I think. So, yeah, some stuff to try. Let's see. Are we on course? Oh, how to hear compression. Speaking of, okay, so I'm going to close this up. Sure, we can save that. How to hear compression. Okay, so I have, these are all basically the same examples that I have for the ear training that is coming up directly after this. The only difference with the ear training is that in these examples, you will always hear it go from fast attack, fast release, to fast attack, slow release, to slow attack, slow, fast release, to slow attack, slow release. In that for progression. On ear training, all of those will be scrambled each time, and you have to identify what characteristics you're hearing that tell you what that sound is. So I'm going to give you some pointers to try and help you identify those characteristics. So we're going to start with this piano. Let's give it a listen. Okay. Fast attack, fast release. I'll let you hear it and then I'll describe it. First off, you hear the fuzziness. So you would hear the exact same effect when you hear a fuzzy 808. It's the exact same thing. It's a super fast attack, super fast release. The compressor is trying to work so hard and so fast that it starts to distort and gives you a little bit of that fuzz. So that doesn't always happen with fast attack, fast release. It usually happens with sustained bass sounds or sustained low, mid to mid sounds. So you got to be careful on using fast attack, fast release when you do, and make sure you're not distorting. But you'll also hear. So I'm going to play you fast attack, fast release, and then slow attack, fast release first. And I want you to hear the ending characteristics of the piano notes. So the ends of them are about the same. It's just the attacks that are totally different. But when you do a slow attack and a slow release, all of a sudden everything gets super quiet because, let me show you. Yeah, I should. It never has a chance to recover back to the threshold for the next thing to hit it again. So it's always slow to recover, and then by the time it's getting anywhere close to recovering, it's been hit by the next big transient again. Watch when I back off the release. So it really matters what your sound source is and what you're trying to accomplish with it. If you only want to emphasize the attack and you don't really want the sustain to be super emphasized in your mix, then something like... slow attack, slow release, you're still letting the transients through, but I would speed up the release so that it's almost back to level by the time it hits the next chord. So it's always working, but it's not so far down that you don't really hear it grab again. Hear how that evens it way out without, evens it out really nicely without making it sound, I don't know, too squashy. So I'm keeping all of the attack of the key hammers on the piano. If I did this, we would get rid of the attack of the hammers. And then let me just play you the hammer attack fast with a fast release. So if you're listening for fast attack, you're listening for those hammers or like that snare transient to be clean going through. Let's go to snares. So this is fast attack, fast release on a snare drum. Listen to how... You hear how the stick attack sounds much more, the point of the stick attack sounds much more aggressive when the distressor is in bypass but the overall perceived volume of the snare is louder when the distressor is in, because it's squashing it and pulling the decay up. But you'll notice the transient is virtually gone. So it depends on what kind of a snare you're trying to go for. Now, either of these approaches on snare would be completely normal and acceptable depending on what you're trying to get it to do in your song. So if you want a snare that's like long and sustained and with a tone to it and maybe is a bit musical and carries into a reverb nicely, then maybe a fast attack, fast release is the way that you want to go. Or if you want a real pointed snare and you want to get rid of the impact of the decay of the snare, then you would want a slow attack to let the stick go by, and then a slower release to let the decay stay down. I hope I'm making sense here. So let me see if I can show you guys with okay. Here's Skrizzly Adams.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane? Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means.
So listen to a fast attack, fast release on Skrizzly, and listen to how much of the reverb comes up after him.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my. Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane? Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane? Yeah.
So you can really hear the end of the signal coming up, because that's the softer thing, and as it gets closer to the threshold, that's still getting pushed up and up and up. So that's fast attack, fast release. Now, if you go to slow attack, fast release, you'll hear that same effect of the end of his voice and the reverb tails being pushed forward. Here's slow attack, fast release.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
But you'll notice slow attack, fast release, you're keeping the punch of his voice. You're keeping his attack. And then you're pushing the sustain of his voice forward.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Whereas fast attack, fast release kills the transient and makes him, well, you listen.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
It's a little more held back, and you can hear the compression more. But sometimes that's what you want. If it's the middle of a chorus of a big rock record, that's probably the setting that I would go for. If it's a chant, stomp section, then I'd probably go with the other one. So it all depends on what you want and what you're trying to accomplish and, all that good stuff. Does anybody have any questions before we move to the ear training portion of our show? Let me just play you snares before we go to this next thing. So what I've done and what you'll get on the ear training is it toggles back and forth between dry and affected. So this is affected, dry, affected, dry. So you can really hear what the compressor is doing on every hit. And these are just single snare hits. So it starts out with fast attack, fast release, then slow attack, fast release. You can see it's all right here. Just pay attention. It's a really flat sound. All right, back to fast attack, fast release. Do you hear how squashy it is? It just seems to flatten out the entire drum. Here's a loop. It's like the attack and the release all just become like one level. And if that's what you want, then that's what you got. Okay, we're going to move on to ear training. Anybody have any questions? Fire away. So the ear training is in the description of the video that you are watching now, is the ear training sheets for ear training. It runs about 10 minutes. So if you don't want to participate in ear training, which it's super fantastic tonight, it's attack, release, compression. So, I mean, but if you don't, then come back in 10 minutes and come see us again. It's 9:01 East Coast time. Boom, boom, boom. And fire up your ear training questions or compression questions on the chat roll. But also, after ear training, we are bringing up Mike DiSalvo from iBuild Music Studios, and he designed my Studio A, and he's currently here finishing up construction of it. Dude is brilliant, and he knows everything that there is to know about designing and constructing studios. So if anybody has any questions from the audience, anything at all, fire away on the chat roll, and we will ask Mike live in about 15 minutes. All right, here is ear training. Let's go. This is Mixing Night Attack, Release, Compression, Ear Training. I'm going to play you a dry example with no compression, and then I'm going to play that same example 4 more times in a row. Each time we'll have a different compression style. One of the 4 examples: fast attack, fast release, fast attack, slow release, slow attack, fast release, or slow attack, slow release. On the snare example, I alternate hits between dry and compressed as I go through each style. Example 1, piano. Dry. Style 1. Style 2. Style 3. Style 4. Example 2, snare. Style 1, AB. Style 2, AB. Style 3, AB. Style 4, AB. Example 3, guitar, dry. Style 1. Style 2. Style 3. Style 4. Example 4, lead vocal. Dry.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Style 1.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Style 2.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane.
Style 3.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Style 4.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Okay, one more listen through to each example, then the big reveal. Example 1, piano. Dry. Style 1. Style 2. Style 3. Style 4. Example 2, snare. Style 1, AB. Style 2, AB. Style 3, AB. Style 4, AB. Example 3, guitar, dry. Style 1. Style 2. Style 3. Style 4. Example 4, lead vocal. Dry.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Style 1.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Style 2.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Style 3.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Style 4.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Okay, here's the big reveal. Here's the answer sheet. All right, let's listen through and see how everybody did. Example 1, piano. Dry. Slow attack, fast release. Slow attack, slow release. Fast attack, slow release. Fast attack, fast release. Example 2, snare. Slow attack, fast release. Slow attack, slow release. Fast attack, fast release. Fast attack, slow release. Example 3, guitar, dry. Fast attack, fast release. Slow attack, slow release. Fast attack, slow release. Slow attack, fast release. Example 4, lead vocal. Dry.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Fast attack, fast release.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Slow attack, fast release.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Fast attack, slow release.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Slow attack, slow release.
Yeah, I'm going with the wind like the means to my end. Would you stir up the hurricane?
Post up your results on the chat roll and on the comments. Let's see how everybody did. Trust me, this was a really, really difficult ear training. If you got any of them right, then your ears are starting to get dialed in. All right, how did everybody do on ear training? That's a tough one, but certainly possible to get yourself better at hearing that stuff easier and easier. So now I am joined by my special guest, Mike DiSalvo of I Build Music Studios. Mike is designing and building my Studio A here. We're sitting in Studio B. Studio B, for lack of a better term, is my basic bitch studio. Studio A is the fucking all-out jaw-dropper. And this week, the build is going to be done, right?
Yeah, we should be done by the end of the week.
So, oh yeah, you have a lav mic on so people can hear you. Let's see. So, what can you tell us about studio building? Like, what's the biggest mistake that most people make going into a studio build?
Improper planning.
Mine was certainly that. I think I would have built a ceiling in my space that would have collapsed on me and killed me. And that was the first thing that you pointed out when I sent you pictures of the plans.
Yeah, I do remember that. I was like, no, do not do that. Do not do what you're about to do.
Like, we have 2x4s here. That'll hold the weight, right? No, you're going to die.
Yes.
Okay. And, you know, that was kind of a gut check moment for me when I realized, like, I'm so far out of my depth. I really need a pro. And thank God I have you. He built this desk as well, which has been fantastic for me. It has survived 2 studios now. But anyway, back to, so that was probably one of the biggest early mistakes that I made. What are some of the other, like, when you say poor planning?
90% of studio building is all in the preparation. The actual building it is the easy part. Understanding audio, electrical requirements, HVAC considerations. You know, it's not your standard HVAC. You have to account for heat sink from equipment and, you know, and proper, make sure you have your electric set up so your ground, you don't have hums and everything set up. And then everything in studio construction is kind of atypical. So if you did your kitchen or you did something around the house and you kind of know construction, everything you know there kind of goes out the window. Yeah.
To one of those ends is sealing up the drywall. I think a lot of people don't really understand, like, the how many layers of drywall and insulation do we have in Studio A?
So out there right now we have cinder block, 2x4, insulation, drywall, airspace, metal framing, drywall, and metal framing, insulation, 2 more layers of drywall, and then internal insulation. So 10 layers.
And the internal insulation is that fabric wall stuff, right?
Right, that's the new fabric wall system with 703.
And the insulation in between the other layers of drywall is rock wool?
That's AFB, acoustical fire bats.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 different purposes. One's for tuning the room, one is for stopping transmission leaving.
See? This is shit I don't know. So, tell us more, like bass trapping. What are we doing for bass trapping in the room?
So in that room, we cut, because we do have a pretty long length, we have 22 feet, we cut down 80 hertz 4 times to a quarter note, which comes out to 40, it was 23 inches. So our depth on our bass traps in the front of the room is 23 inches. And 30 at center, so we're trapping quarter note at 80.
So you actually did some sort of mathematical calculations.
Oh yeah.
How you laid the dimension of the room out. It wasn't just like, I think the room will look good with the walls here.
No. There's modal calculations that we do to figure out what we want to catch. Again, in today's, the way technology is going, it's not as heir apparent as it was 30 years ago, because now you have the ability to go in with your, pre-converter and start tuning your room. That wasn't available 30 years ago. So again, technology helps a lot.
Yeah.
Especially people looking to build a studio now. There's a lot more forgiveness today than there was 10, 20, 30 years ago.
I mean, just the advent of good speaker correction is a total game changer for a lot of rooms.
Yeah, it's huge. Right.
So I gave you a space. The starter space was my detached garage, which is 23 by 23 by 11. And what did we end up with as a finished rough?
Our internal now is going to be, I think it's 19.8 by like 19.6. So we ate up some room building in.
Right.
Right.
So we built in about almost 3 feet, more than 3 feet.
Foot and a half on both sides, roughly. Yeah. Once you account for everything, yeah.
So we built in 1.5 feet on each side, roughly. So makes the widest dimensions of the room smaller, but then the room comes to points kind of at the back, and right next to mix position is one of the break points of the walls. What are those for?
That's just to deflect sound so you don't have adjacent walls facing each other. We try to break up the room as much as we can.
And what happens when you have parallel walls like a normal room?
Modes, standing waves, frequency clash.
So if you don't know what modes and standing waves are, standing waves are like if you've ever been in a room like a subway or something and you clap your hands and you hear it repeat like 20 times in a half a second, that's a standing wave. So if you can have standing waves anywhere in the frequency range, especially when you have parallel walls. So there are no parallel walls in my studio, and there's just a shit ton of absorption throughout all of the different. So one of the things I learned about studio construction is that you use different methods to trap and control different frequency ranges.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so on the high frequency, essentially you're going to have a broad spectrum, and in order to trap low frequency, a lot of products that are made, they claim low frequency, but really those waves are so large that in order to actually stop them, you need a large trap to stop them. You need something with depth. High frequency is much easier to absorb, and that really just comes down to square footage, getting as much coverage as you possibly can across the spectrum. And again, depending on the size of the room, your depth of your insulation and the NRC will vary, but for the most part, it really comes down to trapping the low frequency and getting that right. And the way we did it in your room is we built the traps, but at the moment they're unstuffed until you can actually get out there, level it, bring it up, and say, okay, my low frequency is a little too high, and then we can stuff the traps. And as we stuff the traps, the low frequency will come down.
And we determine that by just taking like room readings with sine waves or pink noise or white noise or whatever, shooting the room, seeing where the problems are, changing the bass trapping, reshooting the room, and seeing what we get.
Absolutely.
Kind of an evolving process like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess we do that until we get the room as flat as possible, and then room correction.
Exactly.
The rest
That's where room correction comes in. As we're, again, 30 years ago, you'd have to tear the room back apart. Oh, we got to fix this. These days, we do have that advantage of room correction, which is massive.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And especially because now I specialize, I still mix a ton of stereo, but I also mix Atmos, and Studio A is going to be a fully immersive room. It's going to be all Atom monitoring.
That was a challenge.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff you needed put into that room on a wiring. That was, for a small room like that, we probably used 8 times the cabling we ever usually use. I mean, it
really
was, and figuring it all out. All right, this one's got to go here, dealing with Atom and Dolby and going back and forth with those guys. It was definitely very interesting,
I think also because now in the speaker correction days, you can run Ethernet and audio to each speaker. So you have an Ethernet connection and an XLR going to every single speaker. And what do we have? 17 speaker runs?
I think we have, I think it's like 17 speaker runs plus all the projectors.
Yeah.
Plus,
we have projection going on. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on out there.
So yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can do our first show from Studio A first week of October, and show you guys the big reveal. I mean, we're not going to tell you everything about the room, but it's. Hopefully it's going to be a stunner.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking dope.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I saw you got the cloud done today. I posted up on my Instagram story earlier. I did kind of a 360 around the whole room. Let's see if we have questions. Chuy Maldonado asks, hey, Mike, are there any tools for room configuration? What are the best tools for like how to lay out where to put your walls and how much to absorb, and is there like a design tool for that?
I think there's a couple, like what's that one? Not really. So what do you use to say figure out the angles of all of the walls? It all depends. It all starts with what's the client doing. You know what I mean? In your case, it's strictly mixing. In some cases, some guys do just stereo mixing. They want to cut in the room. It's maximizing the room for what the client wants to do and needs to do, and then finding in your case, we need a lot of angles because you're going to have sound coming from everywhere. So we need to break that up. But in a more traditional sense, some of those rooms you could just do front bass trapping, rear diffusion. If they're a stereo left-right, and that's what they want to do, it's so situational. No situation's ever the same.
This is why I needed the pro for this. Oh my god. Yeah. I'm so happy with the way Studio A is coming out. We're using. Is that the first time you've used Fabric Wall?
It's the first time I use that system, and I'm really happy with it.
So we're using this Fabric Wall system where I guess you lay out the tracking first, and then you have these big panels of, it's about an inch thick fiberglass, and you just put those up, and then the fabric pulls across those.
Clips in.
And I saw you finishing up one of the walls today, and you got that stuff done in 2 or 3 days. That was amazing.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going back on that system. That's it beats the old way we used to have to do it, where you built pine panels for every. I mean, that took forever.
and you'd stretch and staple and stretch and staple and stretch and staple
and stretch and staple. Yeah.
And this is pull on a track, and they've already got the system figured out. Is it Fabric Wall?
It's just Fabric Wall.
The name is actually Fabric Wall.
Yeah.
Fabric Wall USA.
Yeah.
So check it out for your studio. We've been apparently really liking it here. And that's the main absorption on the inside of the control room. MBI asks, hey guys, if you're spending X, how much are you spending on treatment and how much are you spending on monitors? I would say, honestly, I think, if you love PMC and things like that, man, more power to you. Go nuts. But you can buy a house or you can buy a PMC Atmos system. I mean, it's that expensive. Yeah. So I feel like I went with the best, most accurate speakers in a sane price range that I could find, which were Atoms, and I've been using Atoms for a decade now. So it was bumping up to the bigger models sounded just like what I was used to. But I would say we probably spent less than a quarter on speakers and most of it on build and other finishing stuff.
You can always replace the monitors. The build, if you're doing an actual build, you can't go back.
Right.
So the monitors are that's something you can always upgrade later, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like you said, I've had clients that started with small speakers, you come back a year later, and they have the PMCs, and I'm working with PMC doing the room tuning.
Right.
Yeah.
If I write a number one, I'm getting PMCs, motherfucker. But honestly, I got my Dutch and Dutch. I don't need some fucking PMCs. These things are slay. I just can't afford Dutch and Dutch for Atmos. But for stereo, my God. Let's see. So, yeah, I would say you definitely want to spend on room treatment and room correction first. Get that right before you get monitors in there, or the monitors are just going to be worthless. Joseph Michael asks, hey guys, can we see the room? Joseph, I posted it on my Instagram story today. It's at Ken Lewis Producer. I did kind of a 360 of the room and talked about Mike being on the show tonight. And we'll definitely post it on our socials as it gets complete. And man, it's going to be a jaw dropper. Let's see. Frank Hansen asks, hey guys, when you mention Atmos, what is the type of Atmos? It is 9.1.4, where we are wired for 9.1.6, but I really don't find any value in the 0.6 over the 0.4. So until I need them, I've got the cables in the speaker positions, but I'm not putting the speakers there yet. So it's going to be 9.1.4, and we're also going to be wired for Sony 360. So we'll be able to do both of those things fully immersive in that room, along with stereo. Yeah, it's going to be a fucking monster.
A lot of speakers.
A lot of fucking speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot to deal with.
It was fun though, getting to work with Adam what's his name over at Adam. He was really nice, and laying it all out. It was a fun process. You know what I mean? It was definitely cool.
Was this your first Atmos room?
This was my first Atmos built-in room. Yeah, I've had guys transition them, like everybody did a couple years ago. They were just quick, but right. This is the first one where we actually pre-wired. Everything's coming out at the locations, and it all had to be pre-thought, yeah.
And had the ceiling height up there, and the whole 9 yards. Oh, yeah, man. So, I won't talk about what we're doing with projection, but it's going to be pretty fucking mind-blowing.
Oh, did I let that cat out of the bag?
No,
okay.
It's fine. They're going to see it soon enough. Yeah. Let's see. Marquezicar asks, hey guys, fiberglass is so common in absorption panels that I regularly see people selling their own DIY panels. However, I'm quite worried about health issues. Isn't there other material option that work better and safer?
Yeah, sure. So there's two types of fiberglass you want to look at, and that's a good question. AFB, or acoustical fire bat, is what we generally use. It's a fiberglass. That actually goes in the wall. That can actually release fibers into the air, even behind fabric, and that's not great for you to breathe in. If you're actually going to use it on a wall, you want to use something like an Owens Corning 703. It's a rigid fiberglass insulation, and it's woven together and also glued down, it will not release particles into the air. That's the proper thing to use behind fabric in an interior of a studio.
Boom. And I know in Studio B here, we have real basic like duck cloth fabric on the walls here, and behind that is 4 inches of rock wool. But in front of the rock wool is that black, like, what is it, lawn fabric?
Right, right.
And you just staple the lawn fabric over top of the rock wool so that when your 808s are smashing and it starts vibrating all of that shit, that the lawn fabric holds it into the walls and doesn't let it go into your lungs. So if you're worried about it, just put some of that black fabric around it and the sound goes right through it, but it doesn't let the insulation out. Ben Kruger, we got one final question from the chat roll. Ben Kruger asks, hey Mike, what is the best way to deal with bass frequencies in small spaces? Ooh.
Yeah. This is the age-old question. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, man. In today's day and age, I think we would just go back to room correction software. I really think that's your best bet. It depends how small, what bass frequencies.
Put a rug and a big couch in there.
Yeah.
Get anything to soak up weight.
Get anything to soak up weight and really lean on some correction software. I think that would be your best bet.
So if you're a little flush with cash, I can recommend the Dutch and Dutch 8Cs that I have in front of me, because so these things are meant, they have their own correction built in internally, and they're meant to be put in rooms that have a lot of reflective walls, and they're meant, some voodoo shit that they're doing. I got on the phone for like a couple hours with the guys at the company going through it. I don't understand how they did what they did, but it's incredible how they manage bass with that. And it's meant to manage bass in a shit room like that. So that's one option if you really have deep pockets.
Yeah, that's...
But the other thing is room correction software. It's gonna help get rid of that low end, but if the room correction software has to work too hard, it's probably going to sound kind of shitty. And you want to get your room as flat as possible before you add the room correction software, or it's just not going to do a great job for you. But it'll help for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the best route.
Let's see. Okay, one more question for Mike, and then I got to get to the next segment. Paul Nielsen asks, hey, Mike, for bass trapping, do you favor any particular method like limp bags, diaphragmatic,
Helmholtz
resonators, or straight absorption?
For the most part, straight up absorption in the smaller rooms like this, around 20 feet, straight absorption, depth absorption. Helmholtz resonators, they take up room in the layout unless you lay them horizontally, and then you need the depth. Diaphragmatic, I'll use those in very specific scenarios.
I don't know what those are.
So it's like a membrane diaphragm that adjusts with it's kind of like, imagine the way Jello works.
Wedges?
No, it's a I'd have to show you them online. It's like a membrane layer that resonates,
and you can tune it.
Right, and you can tune it.
Yeah,
they're very specific. I'll use those in very specific scenarios where it's like we don't have, say, enough room in the throw to build and then I'll be like, all right, this is your option here. But for the most part, when you have the depth, the easiest, and the thing with those are it's very tunable in the way we did it in yours. We have, I think it's like something like 32 or 36 cubic feet of bass trapping. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, there you go. It's a lot of bass trapping. Okay, thank you all for your questions for Mike, and thank you, Mike, for building me my freaking awesome studio. Mike, how can they find you?
I build music studios across the board.
There you go. I follow him on Instagram. I build music studios. So you can check him out there or any of his other socials and just reach out to him directly if you got questions or if you want him to build your next studio, because mine is coming out awesome. All right, dude.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Later, brother.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled broadcast. I am going to go in a moment to Marcus Manderson, Mixing Night Man of Mystery, who is going to bring you AI and free stuff. He always brings you guys the gems. But for a moment, I'm going to brag a little bit and show you what I've had going on good this month. So a single that I mixed 10 years ago? 13 years ago by now. Jeremiah, Down on Me, featuring 50 Cent, went 6 times platinum this week. So congrats, Jeremiah. And the album went platinum as well. It had been gold previously. And our plugin LOLCOMP, oh yes, we hit #1 on KVR for the 7 days and a single day. So congrats LOLCOMP for #1 on KVR, and thank you everybody who reviewed it and helped get it there. We really appreciate it. Now, in your Mixing Night show description, you have, where is it? You have this, the Classic Compressors Attack Release Rough Guide. So I originally put this together for my Classic Compressors tutorial from Audio School Online, which is no longer available, but I'm showing you guys a lot of the same stuff tonight. And this chart is available in the description. You can click on it and download it. This is super, super valuable. I have gone back to reference this countless times. Please feel free to share this with your friends. It is a super valuable chart that helps you decide which is the right compressor to pick. So let's look at this. Why is an LA2A so smooth? Well, it's got an attack release from 10 milliseconds to the attack is from 10 milliseconds to 0.5, and the I don't know how that is. I think that's the release. So no, I don't know how that works. Anyway, the LA3A is a much more grabby compressor than the LA2A is. The LA2A is much smoother, and you can see the LA3A has a much faster attack time. The CL1B can be a super grabby compressor, but it can also be much smoother. It depends on where you set the attack. It's variable on the CL1B as well as the release. So the CL1B can sound like a whole lot of different things, whereas like the Fairchilds and things, they have set presets. And you see with the Fairchild, all of the Fairchild settings are super fast, microseconds, under 1 millisecond on the attack. So if you put this on a mix bus, there's no transient getting through that. It's going to kill all of your transients for however much you push into it. And depending on where you set your release is how it's going to sound musically. So Manly Verymew, attack is 25 milliseconds. That's like an eternity. And the release is 200 milliseconds to 8. Where I set it is slowest. So I set it at about a 70 millisecond attack and the slowest release. So probably an 8-second release. And then I push really hard into it. And I don't know why that shit sounds so good, but it is like magic glue. It is unfreaking believable. And the outboard Manly Verymew sounds almost exactly the same as the UAD Manly Verymew. They frickin' nailed it. Although you got to adjust the headroom calibration to get it right. I couldn't get it matched until I found that little nugget. FET compressors. The 1176 at its fastest attack, super, super grabby, 20 microseconds. That's even faster than the Fairchilds. And you see even at the, that can't be right. The slowest says it's at 800 microseconds. The slowest attack on a 1176 is much slower than 800 microseconds. I don't buy that. So, Anyway, you're starting to see the point. Kramer Pi, one of my favorites, and used to be the first compressor in my vocal chain, so that might tell you something about our new LOLCOMP. Very fast attack and pretty moderately slow release. I think I always had it set to 100 millisecond release. All right, so download that, share it with your friends. Reference that, keep that next to you while you're mixing and you're grabbing this compressor and then you're listening to it, and look at the attack release characteristics and ask yourself what it's doing to your sound. And that's going to teach you more about compression than almost anything else. You'll start noticing these repeating patterns. Oh, slow attacks, the transients get through, and it sounds a bit more natural. The fast attacks are a bit more squashy, but they can be louder depending on how you mix them. And like, there's all of these different characteristics, and then you start realizing, like, oh, I really like the sound of an LA2A on bass. And then you go like, oh, I wonder why. Oh, it's because it sounds like this. And then you try other compressors. You're like, I don't like those so much. And then you look at the attack release and you go like, oh, okay. So anyway, that's how I really learned a lot about compression, by really studying what it sounded like and what the attack release characteristics were. And now I'm going to go to Marcus Manderson, Mixing Night Man of Mystery, who's bringing you AI and free stuff. And then we're doing the LOLCOMP mix reveal, picking the winners, and then I'm going to show you the mix breakdown using only LOLCOMP for the whole thing. Here we go.
What's good, Mixing Night family? This is Marcus Manderson, Mixing Night Man of Mystery, back with another Mixing Night Man of Mystery moment. In this Mixing Night Man of Mystery moment, we're going to talk all about some AI stuff, some stuff that you can use, some free stuff, of course, did someone say. So let's get right into it first. We have Tone Transfer. This is an AI product that can transform one sound into another sound. So you can take one sound, change it to another. You can add your own. I will include a link for this in the Discord. You can check that out. Next, we have Vocal Remover, La AI. There is a free version of this, but there's also a paid version. But basically, you can put a file in here, and it'll give you the different stems. You can get vocal, instrumental. You can get the drums, the bass, the voice and noise, guitars, piano, synthesizers. There's some things in beta there, as you see there. But again, using AI to separate stems, another great platform to use. Check that out. Next, we have Play Phrase. Now, this is different. This is where you can put in a phrase here, playphrase.me, and it'll find movies that use that phrase. So if you're trying to find a sample for your beat or whatever, and you're trying to say, let's say, I love you, which is probably used in a bunch of movies, and there are over almost 10,000 results. So I can click this and play that. I'm not going to play that. I can scroll through almost 10,000 results, and I can scroll through, let's say, I want to see this one or this one, and I can hit play and play that. I'm not going to play the movie right there. And then you can also see the most common phrases that have been searched and things like that. So that is Play Phrase. Next, we have artwork. I use Leonardo for AI artwork for some projects. So let's say you want to create artwork. You can go to AI art generation, and you can say Mixing Night, and let's see what shows up. This will take a few seconds if you're on the free plan. There is a paid plan. If I type in Mixing Night, well, that looks like a great console. Looks like the next episode, Ken, and Mixing Night family should be done here in whatever this location is. But there you go, Mixing Night. That looks dope. Next, we have Soundful AI music generator. There is a free version of this also, and this can give you ideas to start your music project. If you're working on music and you're just stuck somewhere, you can use this AI music generator. There are royalty-free music that you can create with this. Just be careful with using AI right now if you're trying to get it into sync and things like that, because there are no rules set in that space. But again, these platforms are here for us to use, so let's find out how we can use them. Check out Soundful. I'll include a link again in Discord. Next, we have UberDuck. Now, what's great about UberDuck is that you can make music with AI vocals. So you can have a beat and you can say, hey, I want to put an artist on this, and use AI to have the artist, to create the artist on this beat. There's a great challenge with Grimes, who is offering this AI option where producers and composers like me and you can use Grimes's voice, her voice, on our beats, the AI voice, and she will share, split profits or whatever the case is. So definitely check that out. There's a challenge going on right now where you can win some money. So check out the Grimes AI challenge in UberDuck. Next, we have Samplet shoutout.io. This is a great way to find random samples. Again, won't help you in sync, but if you're just looking for either inspiration or just a random sample, if you hit this random button here, let's see, hopefully it won't play. It'll play the next random sample from YouTube. It's just a YouTube random sampler. It's almost like going to the record store and, you know, looking through records, but it's on YouTube. So you're just hitting random and whatever the algorithm decides is the sample to play. Next, we have Adobe Firefly. This is currently free. It's in beta. I think we might have showed this in some past episodes, but this is a great way to use AI to create artwork, to find 3D to images, text to images, to remove backgrounds, to remove foregrounds. The thing I really like about it, I'm going to show this one part, text to effects. I'm going to skip this. And what I can do is I can just create effects. So let's just start here. And I'm going to say, I want the word to be mixing night. And we want it to be like audio speakers. And we're going to hit generate. It will take a little bit of time to generate while AI is doing its thing, but you can choose different colors, you can choose different text. And there we go. We have some speakers there. We have some different things going on. It takes, like I said, it takes a second to generate. I might want to remove the background color, change it to white, or even to change it to black. And then the text we can change to white. So you have all these different options here. You can use this to create different types of text art, but you can also go to Firefly and to use to remove backgrounds, to use different AI stuff. So I did one more just for fun. Mixing Night just did audio, which is kind of interesting. So Mixing Night and then audio, because this is Mixing Night, right? And there's some audio things in the background. You can share the result. You can download these. Next, we have a free vocal splitter. This is free until the end of the month, which is currently September 2023. So after that, you might have to pay for it. But this is basically a way to add some wideness to your vocals. It is called a vocal splitter. So I think it takes a stereo mono vocal and makes it wider. Check this out for free. I'll include a link there. And last but not least, the free orchestra. Project Sam has released version 2 of their free orchestra. So you can get version 1 already if you go to the free orchestra or projectsam.com. Version 2, for the next year, they will be releasing a new free instrument every month. Did someone say free? So for the next year, starting this month, August 2023, or last month, they are going to release a new free instrument every month until next July. So there you go. By the end of it all, we'll have 12 new instruments, and they sound incredible. They sound great. If you know Project Sam, really great in the orchestral space. So looking forward to see what they do here with the free orchestra 2. Again, you can check out the free orchestra part 1. That is all I have. I know it's a lot to sift through, but definitely check out all the stuff. We'll include all the links in the Discord group. So check it out and be safe and be well. This is Marcus Manderson with another Mixing Night Man and Mystery moment. Be safe and be well, everyone. All right. All right. Peace.
Hello. We are back. Marcus Manderson, Mixing Night Man of Mystery. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have a new plugin. If anybody has seen my personality in the past, I'm a little bit stupid. So my plugins reflect my personality. Here's LOLCOMP, if you haven't seen it before on the show. So LOLCOMP is 5 chains to rule them all. We have the LOL chain, which is my vocal chain, but it's also a super all-purpose chain. Literally to mix vocals, you do that until you're evened out and you're done. It's the easiest thing in the world. If you don't understand compression, you need LOLCOMP. Panda chain is my 808 chain. If you want to control 808s, you push it to about there. If you want to control them and get them a little bit buzzy, push it to about there. If you want to really set them in the mid-range, you can keep pushing. Third is the punch chain. Great on drums, great on any like male rap vocals, female rap vocals, anything that you want to keep the transients but push everything that comes after it forward. Peacock is the pretty chain. And Dragon is the destruction chain. That goes from this gorgeous saturation into this fucking really beautiful destructive distortion. Yeah, that's the word, Ken. Destructive distortion. So what we did was we launched this plugin a couple weeks ago, and you can get a 14-day trial, and we're still within the 2-week intro of the plugin and the 14-day trial. We launched a mixing night, a LOLCOMP mixing contest. I served up stems to the obSCENE Stealers single losing game. So I will fire it up right here. Losing game. So check it out on Spotify or any of whatever your streaming service. obSCENE Stealers Losing Game. Great song. I served up the raw multi-track unmixed. I mixed the intro vocal and kept the reverb on that because LOLCOMP won't do a 10-second reverb. So it'll do a 5-second reverb, but not a 10. So almost everything was the raw multi-track. I gave it to you guys with the instruction that you could only use LOLCOMP, greenhouse, and one equalizer. And we got a ton of great entries back. I want to play you just some loops of some of the entries, and then these are the top 6 right here. And we'll pick a winner in a minute. But I want to play you these loops because this is fascinating. So this is, I'll just start on Chris Furness. I'm going to play you 4 bars of everybody. This is the same section from every. Is it? Is this the same section from everybody? This is. I think this section is. So I'm going to start from here. Here's a chorus loop, and every time that you see it switch to the next one, it's a different entry in the mix contest, and you'll see how radically different everybody approached their mixes and used LOLCOMP. You guys crushed this. Really great. And remember, you were only allowed to use 3 plugins, LOLCOMP, Greenhouse, and 1 EQ of your choice. So those were all of the honorable mentions. Sorry I could not show everybody, but you can see most of everybody who submitted. We had a bunch of really great submissions. But I want to play the same area of loop. Let me play this area of the top 6, and I'm going to play you just 4 bars of each of the top 6. But when I judged, I went through section by section by section and listened to who I thought was my favorite, who I thought balanced the best, who I thought the overall presentation was the most on point. And then after I disqualified Len Kewis, I picked a winner, and I'm going to just play you everybody now and then tell you who I picked. It's Bobby Thimgen. Hey, Benita. Jason Lee. Fabian Ramos. Christian Mirith? Ricardo Cruz. Our winner is Christian Mirith. Congratulations, Christian. You won a copy of LOLCOMP. If you haven't bought it yet, you own it now, and a copy of Greenhouse. I think we're giving you both. And I think we're going to ship you a LOLCOMP hoodie and a LOLCOMP mug. So, oh, nice. Swag, baby. Swag. Congrats, Christian. Awesome, awesome work. Runner-up, I think you get LOLCOMP. I think you get LOLCOMP. Jason Lee in the runner-up position. Woo! Jason Lee, congratulations. Yeah! And in second runner-up, and you get a copy of Greenhouse, or we'll figure something out. I think you already have that, is Bobby Thimgen. You certainly have bragging rights, Bobby Thimgen. Very well done. Now, I would like to play you Len Kewis's LOLCOMP mix. That motherfucker. All right, here we go. Len Kewis. No relation, just my arch nemesis. Okay, I'm not really sure if you can see this, but the way that I have this set up, oh, I see, is, yeah. We're looking at these two right here. When when mix bus is open, you're hearing my full mix. When original is open, you're hearing the original mastered, released on Spotify into the world mix. And the only plugin that I used on my entire mix was LOLCOMP. You can see LOLCOMP, 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 LOLCOMP. Even on my sends, bus 1 and 2, LOLCOMP Reverb 1. I just pushed it all the way into... This is 100% wet. I believe. Dominic, is that correct? I think this is 100% wet. So I have Oxidate 1, Oxidate 2, Oxidate 3, Oxidate 4, Oxidate 5, all set up on bus 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. And I used a bunch of those. Then I have LOLCOMP on the mix bus on Kangaroo chain, the punch chain. And you see I'm pushing both compression and limiting. I'm mashing into the limiter, and I'm tilting it a little bit. Let's hear the before and after on. Well, let's just hear an A/B of Len Kewis's mix against the original. Here's Len Kewis to start. Original. LOLCOMP.
clear your conscience, lay in your bed
Original and
feel the blame. I know how this ends, know how the rules bend, and you're the king of saving face. Know you're keeping
original.
what she's dealing. Don't know why you spin me round.
LOLCOMP.
Say you're confused, who you should choose. Go ahead and count me out. Hey, hey, go away, you're winning and in the losing game.
Original.
Losing game. Hey, hey, run
Lol.
away, I won't stay for second place. Second place. Hey, hey, go away, you're
LOLCOMP.
winning and in the losing game. Losing
Original.
game. Hey, hey, wanna play, I won't stay for second place. Second place.
So obviously I spent a lot of time A-Bing between my original mix and my LOLCOMP only mix. And I really built you know, I built my how I used LOLCOMP around trying to match my original mix or better it. In some instances, like I think I was able to bring out the hi-hats nicer on my LOLCOMP mix with the Hayes Airband. Speaking of which, has anybody noticed the Lavender Haze Airband, and did anybody notice that me and Dominic Ravinius worked on Lavender Haze? That's where we got the airband from. Anyway, moving on. Oh, I see. It's not 100% wet. Okay, so interesting. So yeah, these still have some of the dry, but I was pushing into them just fine. And when I needed a little bit of extra reverb, they were there for me. Let's see. So we're running a little bit short on time, a lot bit short on time. So I'm going to show you a couple choice things out of this. But then I'm going to put together like a whole probably 15-minute breakdown of this and show you guys some of the real manipulation with LOLCOMP. But here's like the kick. You just won't even fucking believe this shit. Hang on.
I won't.
No LOLCOMP. LOLCOMP. I mean, what? So what I did was tilt. So levitate is a tilt. So I levitated hard to the left, which is going to add a ton of low end and take away a ton of top end. So I just wanted that thing to push, push, push. And then I mashed it into the limiter, and then I added back some of the top end with the Lavender mid awaken band. And then I added a second LOLCOMP with even more Lavender mid awaken and a little bit more tilt just to give it a little bit more heaviness. So just listen without the second one. So see, it's got a little bit more push and a little bit more weight and a little bit more snap. Just doubling it up. So that's one of my favorite tricks on it. Let's see. This bass heart was really cool. Again, I'm pushing, levitating all the way left to get it really dark and fat, and then I'm mashing into it. Peacock is a real gentle limiter, and you kind of push brighter first and then brighter and fatter as it goes. So I'm pushing brighter and fatter, and then I'm limiting a little bit on the way out, but I'm heavily levitating it fatter to the left.
Know you're keeping what she's dealing.
I wanted to show you staccato strings. So I recently mixed a remix of the #1 single by Jungkook and Lotto, 7. I mixed the Nightfall remix, and which is real string heavy, and it's got a lot of staccato strings. Not these, but similar. And I used basically this technique on the staccato strings on the 7 Nightfall remix. So I'm pushing into the punch chain, which keeps the attack of the bow on the string when it hits. But then I'm pushing the sustain of it forward. I'm tilting to the right, so I'm tilting brighter to start, and then I'm doing a little bit more limiting at the end, and then I'm awakening the mid band with the lavender band and adding a big dark reverb. So check it all out. And when I tell you it took me under a minute to dial this sound in when I started mixing, I mean, that's like the real superpower of this. Like, I built LOLCOMP for me so that I could get to my results faster and easier. And just like what happened with Greenhouse is, once you put everything under the hood and you put so much control into one interface and you have so many tonal choices in one interface, the end results that you can accomplish are much better than when you have to go from this plugin to that plugin to that plugin to that plugin to get all of the same things happening that I've got under one hood here. So, you know, I know it's a little bit pricey, but you get a $30 off coupon in the description, and you guys should pick it up. So anyway, like I said, I think I'm gonna do a full mix breakdown of this and post it up on our YouTube channel, so check for it there. But man, we really smashed it with LOLCOMP. Like, I am so happy with the way this thing came out. The October show, we're going to do the story of LOLCOMP, and we're going to show you the behind the scenes of how the plugin was built and designed and coded and all of that stuff. And Lori's going to bring you that. And I don't know, I'm sure we'll have other mayhem. Also, if anybody's in the Latin America AES in September 18 to 21 in Quito, Ecuador, I will be there working with Idea Acoustic. So come check me out. I think I have seminars on the 20th. Let's see, 18, 19, 20. I have seminars on the 20th and 21st, and I think I have a mix master class at a local studio on the 19th of September. Quito, Ecuador, check it out. It's going to be loads of fun. It's going to be a great exchange of ideas. I'm going to be speaking English. Somebody's going to be translating for me. So there's that. Oh, one last question before I wrap up the show. Josh S. asked about Losing Game. Hey, Ken, was Losing Game recorded with... Josh S. asks, hey, Ken, were the lead vocals on Losing Game recorded with the Sony C800G? No, Josh S., they were not. The Sony was not working that day, and I had to make do, and I had Danielle Stars here, who's a phenomenal vocalist, as you can hear, and I chose a mic that I thought would complement her voice the best, and I chose an AKG 451 small diaphragm condenser. Which ended up sounding great on her. It sounded nice and big and open and clear. I had to EQ it and compress it a bit and lull it a bit, but, it locked right in. It's no C800, but it's also like a tenth of the cost. So in a pinch, you use what you got to use, and you get shit done. And the vocals still came out great. So, okay, we're already way over time. If you're still with us, thank you for joining us on Mixing Night tonight. We have had a great night from everybody here, myself, and everybody behind the scenes making this show great. Lori Lewis, Dom Ravinius, Nolan Monagold, Jonathan Garcia, I'm forgetting everybody's names, and our extended family of people who help us out with this. Mike DiSalvo tonight for popping in, and we will see you again on the first Wednesday of October for the next Mixing Night. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Good night.